Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
I used to think that the hardest part about marriage was falling in love. But no one told me the real work begins after the wedding. After the pictures are framed, after the honeymoon bags are unpacked, after you start realizing that love is not a constant feeling, it's a daily choice. And that choice, some days, it feels like the easiest thing in the world. Other days, it feels like walking barefoot through broken glass. If you're sitting here today wondering how to save your marriage, I want to start by saying this: you are not broken. Your love is not broken. It's just begging to be seen again. One of the biggest traps we fall into in marriage is this quiet little belief that if I can just prove I'm right, then everything will feel safe again. Because being right feels like control. It feels like security. It feels like a way to say, see, I'm not crazy. I'm not the problem. But here's the problem with that. When two people are trying to win, the relationship loses. Every single time. I remember years ago, talking with a couple during one of my interviews for a research project on long-term connection. They had been married for 42 years, and you could just feel the love between them. Not the movie kind, not fireworks, but the kind that feels like a warm blanket on a cold day. So I asked them, "What's your secret?" The husband chuckled, leaned over in his chair, and said, "We stopped keeping score a long time ago." And I smiled like, "Okay, but what does that mean?" He said, "Well, at some point we realized we were on the same team. You don't win against your teammate." That hit me hard, because for so many of us, we live in these quiet emotional scoreboards. We remember who apologized last, who forgot to say thank you, who gave more, who cared more, who tried harder. And the moment we start keeping track, love turns into a competition instead of a connection. The truth is, there's no such thing as winning an argument with your partner. You might win the words, but you lose the warmth. You might win the logic, but you lose the laughter. You might win the point, but you lose the person, and maybe that's the real danger. Because somewhere along the way, we stopped asking, "What's happening inside you?" and started asking, "Why can't you just see it my way?" The need to be right is almost always fear wearing armor, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being small, fear of not being respected or seen. But when you take that armor off, when you let go of, "I need to win," and replace it with, "I need to understand," something powerful happens. Walls start to come down, egos start to soften. And suddenly, instead of two enemies in a debate, you become two humans on the same side of the problem. I'll tell you something I've learned after studying relationships for over 2 decades. People don't heal through being right. They heal through being heard. You can feel the shift in the room when one person stops defending and starts listening. When someone says, "Okay, I didn't see it that way. Tell me more." It's not surrender, it's courage. Because it takes real bravery to sit in discomfort and choose empathy over ego. Imagine what would happen if, the next time your partner says something that stings, you took a breath, and instead of firing back, you asked, "Can you help me understand what you're feeling right now?" Just that. That one question. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Because understanding is how connection begins to breathe again. Maybe the goal isn't to win anymore. Maybe the goal is to understand each other so well that there's no longer a battlefield between you. Just two people standing on the same side, holding hands, trying to figure out life together. I want to talk about something that most couples don't want to admit out loud. That love without vulnerability dies. We like to believe that love is enough. That if we just love each other, everything else will work itself out. But here's the truth. Love is not enough on its own. Love isn't a shield. It's not a guarantee that someone won't walk away or that the hard days won't crush you. Love survives through presence, through truth, and most importantly, through vulnerability. I remember sitting in a small living room with a couple who had been married 27 years. They looked like any couple you'd see walking down the street, holding hands, laughing at inside jokes. But when I asked about the toughest times in their marriage, their smiles faded. The wife took a deep breath and said, "I think the moment we almost lost it all was when we stopped sharing our fears with each other." They hadn't stopped loving each other. They hadn't stopped caring. They had stopped showing up fully. And that's the danger. Because love without vulnerability is like a house without windows. It looks beautiful from the outside, but inside, it's dark, it's suffocating. You can't see each other. You can't breathe. Vulnerability sounds simple, but it's terrifying. It's the quiet confession of your heart. I'm scared that we're drifting apart. It hurts when I feel ignored. I don't feel beautiful or worthy anymore. It's not a dramatic scene from a movie. It's not shouting or grand gestures. It's saying, in small, trembling words, I need you. I need you to see me, all of me, even the parts I'm ashamed of. And when one person shows up like that, the other person is given permission to do the same. But here's the part most people miss. Vulnerability is risky. Sometimes it doesn't go the way you hope. Sometimes your partner responds with defensiveness or silence. Sometimes you feel even more exposed. But every time you do it, every time you dare to be seen and heard, you are planting the seeds of intimacy. You are saying, I trust you with my heart. And when those seeds are watered over time, they grow into a connection so deep that arguments, mistakes, and disappointments can't touch it the same way. Think about your own marriage for a moment. When was the last time you really showed your fear, your pain, your longing? When was the last time you asked your partner to see you? Not the polished, everything's fine version, but the real messy, human you. That's where love lives. Not in perfection. Not in endless agreement. Love lives in the moments when you say, I am scared. I am hurt. I need you. And your partner responds not with judgment, not with criticism, but with presence. Because here's what I've learned, vulnerability is not weakness. It is the strongest form of courage. It is the heartbeat of intimacy. It is the air that keeps love alive. And if you want your marriage to survive, to not just exist, but to flourish, you must be willing to be seen, to be real, to let your heart risk being broken, because that is the only way it can be mended. Here's something most couples don't want to face. Sometimes the things that hurt us the most in our marriage have nothing to do with our partner. It's easier to blame them. To say, you made me feel this way. It's your fault I'm upset. It's because of you I am angry, frustrated, sad. And when we point the finger, we feel powerful for a moment. We feel justified, we feel right. But here's the truth. Pointing the finger never heals anything. It never restores intimacy. It never brings back connection. I remember sitting with a woman who had been married for 15 years. She told me, every time he forgets to call me when he's late, I just explode. I know it's irrational, but I can't stop it. And I said, I wonder what that's really about. She looked at me, confused, and I said gently, I don't think this is about him being late. I think it's about something deeper inside of you that's being triggered. Something from your past. Something you haven't healed yet. It was a breakthrough for her. Because for the first time, she realized the anger, the resentment, the frustration wasn't him trying to hurt her. It was the echoes of her old wounds. The times when she felt unseen, unheard, or unworthy long before she even met him. And this is why it's so important to stop trying to heal your marriage by only changing your partner. You can't fix your relationship from the outside. You have to start with yourself. This is what I've seen over and over again in my research. The couples who last, the ones who truly grow together, they do the hard work of looking inward. They ask themselves, what is mine to own? What are my wounds showing up as? They do the work to understand their own triggers, their own fears, their own shame. And when they do, something beautiful happens. Because suddenly they stop reacting, they stop blaming, they start responding. It's not easy, it's uncomfortable, it's exhausting at first. Because looking in the mirror and facing your own pain is hard. But it's also the most courageous thing you can do for your marriage. Therapy, journaling, honest conversations with a trusted friend. These aren't signs of failure. They're declarations of courage. They're saying, I am willing to do the work to stop bleeding on the person who didn't cut me. When you tend to your own wounds, the relationship stops being a battlefield. It stops being about who's right, who's wrong, who owes what, and it starts becoming a safe place, a home, where both of you can finally show up fully, without fear, without armor, without the weight of old pain dictating your every reaction. I want you to imagine your marriage as a garden. You can't make the flowers grow if you're ignoring the soil, if you're walking on the roots, if you're letting weeds of old pain take over. You have to tend it. You have to water it. You have to pull the weeds. And sometimes the first step is not fixing your partner. It's healing yourself. Because when you do that, when you own your own wounds and learn to respond instead of react, your marriage transforms. It becomes a place where love can breathe again. A place where connection is possible. A place where the two of you can finally stand together as equals. Fully seen, fully known, fully alive. One of the quietest killers of a marriage isn't lying, cheating, or neglect. It's something far more subtle. It's when curiosity dies. Think about it for a moment. When we first fall in love, we are endlessly curious about each other. What's your favorite memory from childhood? What makes you laugh until your stomach hurts? What are your dreams? Even the wild, impossible ones. We listen with our whole hearts. We remember the details. We ask, we care, we notice. But somewhere along the way, life gets in the way. Bills, work, kids, exhaustion. And suddenly, instead of asking, how was your day? We ask, did you pay the electricity bill? Instead of, tell me about your dream, we ask, what's for dinner? And here's the thing, when we stop being curious, we stop being present. We start making assumptions. We start judging. We start believing we already know our partner. And that is where the erosion begins. I remember sitting with a couple who had been married for over 30 years. The husband looked at his wife and said, I feel like we're strangers sometimes. And she nodded, tears welling up. I know, she said. I feel like we used to be best friends and now we just live together. That's when I realized intimacy isn't just about sex or shared routines. It's about curiosity. It's about never stopping asking, listening, noticing. It's about saying, I don't know everything about you. I want to know more. When your partner seems distant or irritated, instead of assuming the worst, instead of thinking, you don't care about me, try this. What's really going on for you right now? Tell me what's happening in your heart. How are you feeling, really? That tiny shift from judgment to curiosity is transformative. Because instead of building walls, you're opening doors. Instead of creating distance, you're building bridges. And here's the secret: curiosity invites empathy. It invites understanding. It invites love. It says to your partner, I want to see you. I want to know you. I want to understand what you're feeling, even when it's hard for me. I've studied marriages and long-term relationships for decades, and the patterns are clear: couples who thrive, who feel connected, who grow old together with grace. They never stop asking questions. They never stop being curious about each other. They never stop learning about the inner world of the person they promised to love. So tonight, I want to challenge you. Instead of assuming you know your partner's feelings, ask. Instead of jumping to judgment, listen. Instead of reacting, respond with curiosity. Because when you do that, you're not just saving a marriage. You're saving the heart of it. You're saving the connection that brought you together in the first place. And in a world that so often encourages us to retreat into our own heads, to build walls, to protect ourselves, choosing curiosity is an act of courage, a daily act of love. And the reason why some marriages endure while others quietly fade. Here's the thing about marriage. The moments that test it the most are never the easy ones. It's not when everything is perfect. When love feels effortless, when laughter fills the room. It's when life gets hard, when bills pile up, when dreams collide, when sickness, fatigue, or disappointment shows up uninvited. And this is where most relationships falter. Not because love is gone, but because we forget that love is a choice, a daily intentional choice, even when it hurts, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's easier to walk away. I remember talking to a woman whose marriage had been through storm after storm. Her husband had lost his job. Their child had been seriously ill, and for months, it felt like the walls were closing in. She said to me, there were nights I didn't even know if I could keep choosing him. But I did every day. I chose him even when my heart was screaming to run. That's the secret. The couples who survive, who thrive, who grow old together, They are the ones who keep choosing each other. It's not romance that sustains a marriage. It's the quiet promise at 2 a.m. when both of you are exhausted, hurt, and scared, and you still reach across the bed and hold each other's hand. It's saying, "I'm in this with you." When anger, pride, or disappointment whispers, walk away. Eat love in the easy times is easy. Love in the hard times is courage. Love when it's inconvenient is sacrifice. Love when your heart is tired, when your patience is gone, when your fears scream louder than your hope. That is heroic. And here's what most people don't realize. It's in those heroic, painful, inconvenient moments that marriages are reborn. It's when you show up for each other, not because it's easy, but because it matters, that the deep, lasting connection forms. I want you to imagine the two of you, standing in the middle of every storm you've faced. Now imagine reaching for each other instead of letting go. Imagine whispering, "I'm still here. I still choose you." Imagine that tiny, brave act repeated day after day, year after year. That is what keeps love alive, not the fairy tale romance, not the grand gestures, not even the passion. It's persistence, it's grace, it's choosing to see each other, hold each other, and fight for each other, even when it's hard. So tonight, if you are sitting there thinking, "I don't know if my marriage can be saved," I want you to remember this. It doesn't depend on the absence of struggle. It doesn't depend on being perfect. It doesn't depend on never feeling hurt or afraid. It depends on you, on choosing, on showing up, on loving with your whole heart even when it's scary. Because love, the real, lasting kind, is not a feeling. It's a series of choices, every single day. And when you keep choosing love, even in the hardest moments, you don't just save your marriage. You save the deepest, most sacred part of yourself, and that is a love story worth living for. If you're listening to this and wondering if your marriage can be saved, I want you to remember this. Love isn't something you find and lose. It's something you rebuild moment by moment, word by word, choice by choice. And sometimes saving your marriage isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about remembering why you chose each other in the first place. So tonight, maybe sit in the quiet. Look at your partner. See them not as the person who failed you, but as the person who's trying, just like you, to love and be loved. And whisper the words that heal everything. "I'm still here. I still choose you." Because that's where every great love story begins again.